My wife ignored my messages all day. At 11 p.m., she finally came home and smirked. You know what happened? I had a one-night stand with my boss and I'd do it again. I just nodded and finished my meal in silence. The next morning, when she woke up expecting coffee in bed, my phone stayed dark all day. I sent 3 texts. Hey, everything okay? At noon. Are you coming home for dinner? At 6. Plus check in at 9. None of them delivered a blue read receipt. Just blank space. I sat at the kitchen table. The clock ticked aggressively. 10:45 p.m. 10:55 p.m. At exactly 11 p.m., the front door unlocked. Sarah walked in. Her hair was slightly damp, her makeup freshly reapplied, but missing her eyeliner. She didn't look tired. She looked alive. High on adrenaline. She walked into the kitchen, tossed her keys on the counter, and looked at me. I was eating a cold plate of chicken and rice. She smirked. It was a cruel, curving line that distorted the face of the woman I had loved for 6 years. You know what happened? She said, her voice dripping with an eerie pride. I had a one-night stand with my boss, and honestly, I'd do it again. She stood there waiting. She wanted to scream. She wanted tears. She wanted me to smash my plate against the wall so she could call me unstable and justify her cruelty. I looked up from my plate. My heart pounded in my throat, but my face remained a mask of pure stone. I just nodded. I took another bite of my food. Chewed slowly, swallowed. I didn't say a single word. Sarah's smirk flickered. Confusion crossed her eyes, followed by a flash of annoyance. She scoffed, turned on her heel, and marched upstairs to the bedroom, slamming the door. I finished my meal in absolute silence. Then I went to work. Sarah didn't know that my silence wasn't shock. It was calculation. For the past 4 months, I had suspected something. I am a forensic accountant by trade. Peeling back layers of hidden data is what I do for a living. I hadn't just been sitting home twiddling my thumbs. I had already spent weeks quietly uncovering things she thought were deeply buried. She thought her boss, the regional VP, was her golden ticket. She didn't know he was also a married man whose wife's family funded his entire lifestyle and corporate career. I spent the next 6 hours in my home office. I compiled the final pieces. The hotel receipts from her business trips paid on our joint card. The text logs I had legally recovered through our shared cloud link. The signed affidavits of her corporate expense fraud, where she had been inflating her travel receipts to kick back money to his personal account. So I packaged it into 3 separate emails. Email 1 went to the company's HR compliance board and the corporate legal team. Email 2 went to her boss's wife, complete with a polite, empathetic note and a folder containing every single piece of undeniable evidence. Email 3 went to my high-powered divorce attorney, along with a petition for absolute divorce on the grounds of adultery, backed by a bulletproof prenuptial agreement she had signed 6 years ago, stating infidelity forfeits all marital assets. I hit send on all 3 at 5 a.m. The next morning, the sun broke through the blinds. Sarah woke up at 8:30 a.m. Every weekend morning for 6 years, I brought her coffee in bed. It was our ritual. She sat up, rubbing her eyes, fully expecting the usual warm mug of hazelnut coffee. She expected me to be groveling, or at least begging for an explanation. Instead, she got served. 2 men in sharp suits were standing at the foot of our bed. I had let them in 5 minutes prior. One of them stepped forward and handed her a thick, heavy envelope. Sarah Collins? You've been served, he said flatly. Sarah froze. What is this? Mark, what is this? She shrieked, looking at me as I stood by the bedroom door dressed in my best suit. Those are divorce papers, I said, my voice entirely devoid of emotion. You have 30 days to respond, but you have 30 minutes to pack a bag and leave my house. Your house? She screamed, throwing the covers off. We are married. You can't just throw me out. And I told you I had a mistake with my boss. It wasn't a mistake. Sarah, you said you'd do it again, I replied smoothly. And it is my house. You signed the deed waiver when my parents gifted us the down payment, and you signed the prenup. Read section 4. Infidelity voids your claim to the equity. Her phone suddenly exploded with sound. It wasn't a text. It was a barrage of phone calls. She picked it up. Her face drained of all color. It was her boss. She answered it on speaker, her hands shaking. Sarah, you psycho! His voice roared through the speaker, frantic and terrified. My wife just kicked me out and cut off my trust access. HR just locked me out of the corporate server. They fired me, Sarah. They said we're being sued for corporate fraud. What did you do? I stepped closer to the bed, looking down at her. She didn't do it, I said into her phone. I did. Have a nice life, guys. I reached over, grabbed her phone, and turned it off. 30 minutes, Sarah, I whispered, looking directly into her hollow, terrified eyes. The coffee is in the kitchen. But it's only for me.